You ready? Here we go. Good evening and welcome to the Town Board of the Town of Ossining regular meeting for Tuesday, May 4th, 2021. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then please remain standing for a moment of silence in memory of Albert Rivera, former Town Parks Foreman. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we received some sad news this past weekend when we learned that Albert Rivera passed away from COVID-19. Albert worked for the town for over 30 years and retired as the foreman of our Parks Department in 2014. In retirement, he was able to spend time with his family, including his several grandchildren, who we know he treasured greatly. He was also a member of Cataract Hose Company No. 2 on Waller Street in the Village. He was a real sweetheart, and we know he knew so many of our staff and residents, and everyone always had such nice things to say about him. We are saddened by this great loss, and we send our condolences to his wife, Terry, and children, Amanda, Danny, and Ryan, his parents, his entire family, and all those town and village staff members who had the pleasure of working alongside or nearby Albert for so many years. Today, I joined Father Raymond Finch of Marional Fathers and Brothers and Brock Gibeon from Ecogy Energy, along with their teams, for the official groundbreaking of the Marional Solar Canopy project. For you town board meeting regulars out there, you know this project has been in process for some time now, as it made its way through the review process before the planning board and the town board just shortly after we adopted a solar energy code for the town. This is going to be the first large-scale solar development in Ossining and may be the first of this type in Westchester County as well. It's a canopy system over a parking lot, which means there will be no trees cut down, and in fact, some trees will be planted throughout the rest of the campus to increase the benefit to our environment even further. And the best part is that it is a community solar project, meaning members of the community can purchase a share of the system and get 10% off their energy bills. This is a great way for renters or homeowners who may not be able to install a solar system on their house, but still want to support solar energy in Ossining and for the earth. Ecogy and Marional hope that the shares are purchased by all Ossining residents, so it's really community solar. And there is still a month left to apply during this exclusive opening for Ossining residents. Go to https://ecogy.powermarket.io/marketplace.html. After this month, they will be opening up the remaining shares to outside of Ossining. And remember, it's important to fully complete the process. After you have applied, staff from Sustainable Westchester may reach out to finalize details, so be sure to respond to their requests so you can be fully signed up. The town and Marional are so very proud to be the first in our area. Ossining leads the way. Our emergency service crews have done an amazing job throughout this pandemic. I think we can all agree. And they just keep outdoing themselves. The Ossining Volunteer Ambulance Corps, OVAC, as everybody knows it, is now administering Moderna vaccines to any New York resident older than 18. OVAC will even come to your home if you're just nervous or if you're homebound. The registration link to schedule an appointment is available on the OVAC Facebook page and the town website. If you're looking to learn more about the safety of the vaccine, give them a call at their non-emergency number, 914-941-9196. And I'm sure that they'll walk you through the sign-up process through that number as well. The governor had a big announcement yesterday about changes to COVID guidance. During the month of May, industries across the state will see a loosening of restrictions related to capacity limits, food sales, and closing times. Most places will still be required to provide space for customers to social distance. On May 19th, capacity limits will be fully lifted for retail stores, restaurants, bars, gyms, fitness centers, recreational venues, hair salons, offices, and more. Details for specific industries have been shared on the New York State website. Our own village hall will also open for longer hours starting June 1st. We are still going to limit traffic within the building for residents coming in person, and we will continue to screen people for the foreseeable future as well. But the only way that we can keep the good news coming is to make sure that everyone gets vaccinated. Westchester County launched a new campaign today called I Kicked COVID to the Curb, aimed at educating young people about the importance of getting vaccinated. A new PSA even features Ossining native Obi Toppin and his fellow New York Knicks. So as a special treat, I think we have it queued up, so we are going to play it for you now, since it is, you know, featuring one of our own. Let's see what it looks like.
What's going on, guys? Just got vaccinated. Just got the shot.
You're not only helping yourself, but you're helping all of those people that are around you.
The more people that get vaccinated, the faster we.
What happened? Lots of volume. Victoria. Victoria, we can't hear it. I don't know what happened, but we lost the volume halfway.
Oh, maybe because I muted myself. Sorry.
Yeah, that's why.
Sorry. Well,
You guys want to see it one more time? It's only 30 seconds. Should we try it one more time?
okay.
Yep. Let's just do it one more time because we really only heard half of it.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, one more time.
What's going on, guys? Just got vaccinated. Just got the shot.
You're not only helping yourself, but you're helping all of those people that are around you.
The more people that get vaccinated, the faster we can get back to normal times.
We want to be part of the community. We want to enjoy our families and our loved ones. We feel it's the responsible thing to do.
Everybody go get vaccinated. Stay safe.
It's the best line of defense against the virus.
Y'all go get this shot. The mayor quickly told you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And the good news is that you can get a copy of this or see a copy of this on the Westchester County YouTube page, and we will be sure to share on our social media pages as well in the coming days. Westchester County also shared this week that walk-ins are now allowed at all county-run sites, so no excuses. Our Ossining Briarcliff Vaccine Angels are wrapping up their good work as all of this gets much easier with walk-ins and supplies available locally in multiple places. Huge shout out to Nancy Carmichael for bringing the Greenberg COVID Angels model to our attention. Help from that group getting set up, to Joan Smith Dangler for agreeing to chair our volunteer group, and Nancy Edelman for helping coordinate with the local providers. Then we had an all-star cast of volunteers making phone calls to our seniors, setting up homebound visits from the county, and most recently helping out OVAC and helping people navigate the process, even if they didn't have an email or easy access to a computer. Marianne Bayer, Susan Eisenstein, Jessica Hoyer, Linda Levine, Merla Morrison, Lynn Purton, and Diana Planels Bloom were simply extraordinary among the 38 volunteers who helped promote equitable access to vaccinations. These volunteers, since mid-March, helped over 300 of our neighbors in Ossining and Briarcliff, and sometimes even a little beyond, to get vaccine appointments. Now they're looking to finish up their good work by May 31st, but for right now, they're also helping guide people or book appointments at OVAC. We will be sure to have a special recognition ceremony for this group in the not too distant future, hopefully in person. They really did help Ossining get vaccinated. This past weekend was Riverkeeper's River Sweep, as well as I Love My Parks Day, and we had an incredible show of volunteers cleaning up our waterfront, the Sing Sing Kill, the Old Croton Aqueduct, and Ryder Park. Thank you to Riverkeeper, Green Ossining, Susie Ross, Lisa Chang, Victoria Garrity, Senator Elijah Reichland Melnick, Daria Gregg, Diana Alden, Donna Sharrett, Patrick Vipperman, who all took a leading role in setting up these volunteers, and also Councilwoman Feldman for participating at Ryder, and all the families, students, and volunteers who took time on May Day to care for our environment, our beloved parks, and public spaces. It was really, really huge. This Thursday, May 6th, the Ossining Community Equity Task Force will hold its May meeting at 2 p.m. All are welcome to join via Zoom to discuss, dismantle, and disrupt inequity in Ossining. Subcommittees will further explore topics and create action steps as part of their work. If you're interested in becoming part of our community task force or just sharing an idea, email us at equity@townofossining.com. The Ossining PTA is hosting a 5K fun run to help raise money for all the great work they do. Runners and walkers can complete the race on their own and share their success online. Of course, I saw this just after running 5 miles Monday morning, so I'm trying to decide if that counts or not. Information about signups and donations are on the PTA Facebook. Chief, what do you think? Did you run? And Instagram pages. And yes, I did sign up. Did you run, Chief?
No, I'm on hiatus from running.
Uh-oh, not good. Okay, you're gonna have to just this one little 5K, you can do it. And speaking of our schools, I'm proud to recognize that this week is Teacher Appreciation Week. Though no school year is easy, these past 2 school years, I think we can all agree, have been particularly challenging for our teachers who adapted to Zoom classrooms last year with almost no notice and then converted their curriculum to help students process all the craziness that we endured and are now working on in-person teaching once again, which they probably had to relearn. If you have a teacher in your life, give them a special shout out this week or even a hug if everyone's vaccinated. They deserve a lot of praise. Before I wrap up my announcements tonight, I know everyone is aware that this Sunday is Mother's Day. We have quite a few mothers on the Zoom here. If you're planning on visiting a local restaurant or ordering from one, which we hope you do, be sure to give them a heads up sooner rather than later. If you're nervous about eating with mom indoors, consider picking up your order and having a picnic in one of our parks if the weather holds out. There are some lovely outdoor spaces across town that are perfect for families looking to reconnect after this past year of isolation. That's it for me. Do any of my board colleagues have anything to add to announcements? All right. So with that, we are going to get into our work session agenda for the evening. We have our town clerk with us this evening, Sue Donnelly, to participate in 2 important discussions. First, relating to dogs and dog licensing. Even though it is New York State law, we know we have quite a few delinquent puppies out there, and our clerk has a proposal to help address the non-compliance and hopefully educate the public about this requirement. Madam Clerk.
So good evening, everybody. We started this off when we first realized that we have between 350 and 500 dogs with licenses in different stages of licensing here in Ossining. I'm going to be honest with you. I believe there's 350 dogs in my neighborhood, but the common thread to it is that people don't know that they're required to have a dog license. We've seen an uptick in dog licensing lately when you have a lot of the apartment buildings and co-ops and condos requiring a dog license. And why is that? Because then they can guarantee that the dog has a rabies shot. That is the primary reason, besides the fact that if they get lost or something happens to them, we have the information at the office for them. I had a very cute phone call not too long ago, and a guy called up and he said, I have your lost dog. And I said, what? And he goes, yeah, and on his license it says your phone number. And I said, that's because we're the clerks, and all the dogs have that phone number on their collar. So
they're all your dogs.
They're all my dogs. I have one, and that's plenty. So what we wanted to do, we've been talking about it for a while, but the animal control officer, Morris Santucci, came in and gave me a pamphlet from a company that has been doing dog census. And what they do is they mail out a card for every resident in the town of Ossining. And it asks you, do you know that the law is this? Do you have a dog? Is the dog licensed? And if it isn't, it's going to tell him, it's going to have one of those codes on it, RQ or QR, whatever, that I can never remember, that would take you right to a dog registration thing. It's going to be, ours will be a little bit different. Theirs was a very basic card. We asked the company to put one together that was bilingual. We asked them to put the codes on it so that they can go to renew their dog immediately to renew their dog license, or they can register their dog. And then it asks you, if you don't have a dog, just to send the card back, and tell us that you don't have a dog. So we're hoping to have much more compliance with this. We've been talking to the gentleman who has done multiple municipalities, and we can get you a list of the different municipalities if you need it, doing this dog census. And I think it's a good way of communicating with the residents the importance of licensing your dog, and that it is required by law to do that. We have, as you know, sent out the license renewals. So there are, in 2020, we had 350 dogs renew their licenses. And we had another 150 between 2019 and 2020 because some people with the pandemic did not get to renew their licenses. Everything is done online with that. We have the renewal process online, and you pay the price of the dog license. And also you have the ability to register your dog. So what we're asking the town board today is to consider if we could move forward on this dog census. We have already gone to Briarcliff Manor, who, by the way, licenses their own dogs. And we have asked them if they wish to join us. They wish to join us and add in the 9% of the people that live in Newcastle. And so when we went back to the gentleman.
Are we talking about Mount Pleasant?
Mount Pleasant, sorry. I always mix those up. Mount Pleasant, the 9% that live in Mount Pleasant. And because they want to make sure that their whole community is covered, the whole Briarcliff Manor, the whole village is covered. They were very enthusiastic about it. And again, it's another new way and a good way to join forces together to get compliance to our residents in Ossining. So I was wondering if anybody had any questions on that.
I have a couple.
Everybody on this screen, most likely, is already licensed. Their dog is already licensed. Go ahead.
I have a question. Do we know how is it going to work with Briarcliff? Would the surveys go back to Briarcliff, or do they come back to you?
No, the surveys will go back directly to Briarcliff.
Okay.
We already spoke to the gentleman about that, and so they will take care of their own surveys. And part of it, and just so you know too, in the renewal document, we do ask everyone if they want to be part of the dog park, so we don't send out useless tags for the dog park. So,
great.
And we also made it them well aware. I'm sorry.
And Briarcliff should have that too on theirs, because they're supposed to.
Right. We talked at length when we had our phone call with them that their people are certainly eligible to get their dog tag, and the 9% of the people that are outside of the town of Ossining, it's a $25 fee for anyone outside of the town of Ossining that wants to use the dog park. We have a few of them. We do have
That's great.
Probably have 10 people that have registered to use the dog park outside, mostly Croton people, but yeah.
So the other
yes.
question is just, you mentioned that the company had done this in a couple of other municipalities, and what was their success rate? In other words, what was the difference between before and after they sent out the surveys and compliance?
So their success rate is running about, and it's 200% of what they had registered. So if you figure we have between 350, so I'm going to say 400 dogs registered. If we could get between 800 dogs and 1,200 dogs registered, that's a good start. But the best part of it is to make people aware that this is a law and that they are responsible to have their dogs registered with the town of Ossining.
And then
There'll be no more "I never knew."
And what's the cost what's the cost of the program? And then, theoretically, the payback is over a number of years when we hope.
Right. So yeah, the payback would be a number of years. That we have a $1 dog licensing fee for anyone over 60 years old, and it's on the renewal form. So many people are taking advantage of that. So the cost would be around $5,000, with the portion of it being paid for by Briarcliff of and I don't want to give you, I don't have exact numbers yet because we're still trying to firm it up because I wanted to talk to you guys first, would be about $1,200 that they would pay for their portion, seeing that their population size is the same size as the unincorporated area. And then the largest population, of course, being in the village of Ossining, which is covered by the town of Ossining. But I think the return on investment will outweigh the thing in a few years. It won't be overnight. It won't be this year, but as people get more and more used to the easiness of registering their dog and being in compliance.
How many tickets, Chief, do you think you give for people who haven't registered their dogs?
So we haven't issued a lot of tickets for unregistered dogs. One of the issues is that, so there's a couple of, this is layered. First and foremost, historically, when we pick up a dog, we take it to the SPCA, which then incurs a charge to the municipality for the SPCA taking the dog. Thus, our initiative to keep the dogs here and put them on the internet, which both garners allegedly some goodwill and also saves the municipality money on call-in for the animal control officer, as well as the fee from the SPCA. As with most other programs, if you ask somebody to come in and take their dog and tell them when they get here they're getting ticketed, they're not showing up. So we don't usually write tickets if we can get somebody to come in and pick up their dog that's been loose. Second to that, you know, there's varying opinions depending on where you stand and where you are at the particular time on how enforcement should be doled out. So it's easy to sit here in a meeting and say that we should just have strict enforcement for people for dog licenses, right up until people start getting the tickets and then complain that cops are over policing. So in terms of numbers, they're not very high, but I can tell you that one, we don't particularly go out and check dogs for licenses on a regular basis. We don't walk up to people and ask for their dog license. That's not a regular practice. Because we're trying to save money on the SPCA fee, we sometimes don't write the ticket. If it's a dog that gets out more than once, we typically do write the homeowner if we've brought their dog to police headquarters. If it's a one-off and people make a mistake, we allow officers to use their discretion. And then we're trying to balance the community after that. So, you know, our goal is to get people to take the dogs back. Whenever they come get their dog, we refer them to the clerk's office and tell them they should go up there and get their dog licensed. You know, we make sure that within our computer system, we make an entry to say that we've run into this family. So if it comes up again, but I can't say that one of our primary objectives at this point has been writing unlicensed dogs. What my recommendation would be is that going forward, if there's a census to be done, that we do some sort of information campaign to say, here's the amnesty period. We know you don't have your dogs registered. This is the period. And then after that, we intend to take more strict enforcement. Even so, I got to be honest, on something that's a violation, we're going to ask cops to use good discretion and good judgment on when it's appropriate to issue those tickets, because there's a variety of reasons people don't have dog issues. We run into people that say that they can't afford it. We run into people that say that they didn't know. We run into, you know, there's all kinds of reasons that this doesn't happen. So there's not a standard issue. I just don't want to do this, or I don't want to pay my taxes type thing. So we try to treat each individual scenario as it comes to us.
I just want to clarify one point. We pay a standard monthly fee to the SPCA that will be reopening on North State Road, and even when they're up in Cortland. When a dog is taken to the SPCA, in order to get the dog out of dog jail, they have to come to the office and if they're not licensed, license the dog and pay a fee for every day that the dog is there. So it's $25 for the first day, and I think it's $5 for every other day. That comes to the municipality. So that does not go to the we are already paying the SPCA. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no. What I'm referring to is that we have like a $36,000 a year contract with them that's based on the number of animals that we bring there. And that's the reason that we're trying to limit the number of animals that we bring there. The village pays $36,000 a year for SPCA fees. I believe the town has a separate contract with them. That's a lot of money for bringing dogs to the SPCA. And I understand there's, for a variety of reasons, they need to be supported and all that. We're trying to sort of balance that out so that we can keep our budget down. And if that means giving people the dog back and encouraging them to get signed up as opposed to ticketing them for it, we're trying to keep that.
There's a multiple of reasons that you pay that fee to the SPCA, but yeah, I get where you're coming from. But I think I like the amnesty period. I don't mind that at all. But if we can get people throughout, if we can make it our goal, since we have all dogs registering now for June 1, we have many, many, many new people moving into this community every day. We get calls from new folks that have moved here, that we can say that, you know, for the 2022, we do more of the, or whatever, January. We can all decide together. It's not of when we want to start enforcing. It would help your animal control officer, you know, and it helps everybody. So.
Does anybody else have questions?
Is this a mailing that we would do annually? Is this a one-off mailing? What are you envisioning?
It's not a every year mailing, and they do all the work of it. They do all the addressing. They do everything. That number is not them giving us a list of every home. They do everything for you, including the documentation of how we wanted it bilingual and with the codes on it and everything. So I could see this going out.
Not every year. Not every year.
No,
right?
it would not be every year. It would be a dog census. And then we could see how it goes after that, because again, the making people knowledgeable about what their responsibility is for their pet is important. And maybe we could, you know, we would just do more outreach after that, you know, says, always remember your dog has to be licensed,
Right.
but not every year. It's a one time.
Other questions?
I just want to note, I did a very quick little calculation based upon what Sue was saying of how much percentage you get the success rate. So if we're looking at getting at least maybe 100% more of what we currently have, I think the town keeps about $10 to $11 per dog license. Some of the money does go to the state. So that alone would be a payback of about $4,000 in the first year if we were able to accomplish that. So
we actually keep everything but $1 of a neutered dog and $3 of a non-neutered dog. And the biggest thing in for people that say they can't afford it, it's $15 for a neutered dog, and it's $23 for a non-neutered dog. And for seniors over 60s, it's $1. So they are coming in flooding us with their renewal.
everybody over 60's got a dog all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, hopefully they're not saying they can't afford the shots, because that's a bigger issue.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if they say that, could we direct them to the SPCA where they're?
Yeah, I think they're just, well, they're getting ready to move back into their building, hopefully soon. So I think that that would be a great program to push when they're back in their building on North State Road.
Board is generally in favor of this. Can I see consensus in the direction? Yes. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Feldman, I couldn't tell how I had Mr. Bowen as a call. Yes, no, maybe so.
Did we lose Northern or did
We lost Northern. Yes, I actually just texted. I don't know what happened. I don't see him. I'm sorry. And Councilman Meyer, I can't see you. Okay, we'll come back to that.
Yeah, we can come back to that because we have another.
Come back to that question a little bit later. So next up on our agenda is a discussion on the contract renewals for the senior taxi coupon program. For a few years now, there have been some administrative challenges with this program, which were only made more clear during the pandemic. My office has been working with our town clerk, senior program, and Austin Police to develop some recommended changes to this program to hopefully ease the administrative challenges before we sign contracts for 2021. Madam Clerk, I'm going to turn it over to you to get our discussion started.
So the clerk's office has taken responsibility of the taxi cab drivers with the great help of the police department. They have been nothing but fabulous putting this whole program together. So we are down to, after the pandemic, because you can imagine if anybody was close to closing down or anything, taxi cab company wide. I think at one point we had over 30 companies and 125 drivers. We're down to about 12 or 13 companies now. And most of those companies are 2-car or 1-car shops. We have a couple of larger ones, and the largest one of all being Equa. So we are now at a point where we have everyone licensed, every medallion. Thank you, police department, again and again and again. They do all the background checks. Everybody has been background checked. Every car has been inspected by both a reliable station and the police department. And they are all now with they have their medallions in their cars. So what we would like to suggest is that we allow all the companies, all the registered companies, to be able to drive the seniors around. In the past, we've had about 3 or 5 companies that were allowed to drive the seniors around. We ran into some issues last year because we had to have some of the companies in to have a discussion on what customer service to a senior is all about. I don't want to get into any more about that, but we had some issues. So, and we also found out that a lot of the drivers are picking up the seniors and then handing the coupons. It's done by a coupon, and handing the coupon off to one of the companies. So if we let all the companies drive the seniors around, it gives the seniors more competition, so they can choose which company that they favor, and it allows the companies to come in and do this if they choose to. Now, a couple of the problems with the system is that there have been times in the past that a taxi coupon would want to be used from driving, let's say, from one of the condo developments out in the town to Phelps Hospital. The drivers don't feel that they're getting a fair shake with that. We have not raised the taxi rates, which is something we're talking to the village about. I don't think it's quite the time to do that right when you're coming out of a pandemic. It would be better for the drivers, but not necessarily for the users. So what we would like to suggest we do, and we pulled a contract, we had a contract. So at one point, the discussion had been that we would have a different ticket for going to Phelps Hospital for a senior, and we could have a regular going about town coupon, and then it could be a Phelps, let's say they wanted to go to ShopRite coupon, because that's a pretty big drive for a taxi driver. We would have meetings with each individual company and explain to them how it will be done, again, with the police department, because they have great partners on this whole taxi program, and lay down the law as to what we should expect from them in driving our most important people around, the senior citizens here in Ossining. And we also had discussed with the supervisor's office having a much more frequent, nice English, so, more frequent when they come in and they turn in their tickets. Like, it could not be more than quarterly, because right now you just get a bag of these tickets in. So it's a program that the town has been involved in for many years of supplementing the senior citizens so that they can have taxi coupons. But we need to regulate who drives the senior citizens around and who does the senior nutrition program authorize. But because we're down to so few taxi companies now, we feel that we can do it and monitor it so that there is no abuse of our seniors.
And I just want to note, we've spoken to also to obviously the senior nutrition program about this. And I think one of the more recently, they've been getting a lot of complaints from seniors because they have to wait a long time to get a ride because they're limited to so few companies. So I think by opening it up, we're having seniors who are waiting 45 minutes to get picked up to go someplace that they need to go. So by giving them more options, that will make it much. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, no, I think it sounds good to have a little more competition for them to treat our seniors better.
Yep.
And
Yep.
a little more, more options for our seniors, and especially if it's been whittled down so that we don't have, the glut of companies as we used to. I think that sounds good. Is there anybody who has any questions on the board? Comments? Chief, did you have anything you wanted to throw in there?
No, I'm good with it.
Okay.
No, I'm good with it.
Councilwoman Feldman?
So there's a separate ticket to go to ShopRite?
There will be, right,
A
to go
separate
to
color
Phelps.
ticket or a separate amount ticket
right.
that the senior would be able to purchase optionally?
Yes, absolutely.
So you could buy a few ShopRite coupons, you could buy a few Phelps coupons, and then
Have your regular
a few
coupons just to go to the doctor or go around town. Yeah. Because it was, we want to be really upfront with the seniors, and we want to be really upfront with the taxi drivers, taxi companies there by the drivers, so that there's no question when they pick up somebody that they're going to do the right job for them. Yes, it would be very detailed. We would have many meetings with the seniors. We'd write we give them a lot of information about it so that they know and they can feel comfortable. And between the police and us driving and walking around, I've never thought I would learn more about taxis than I have in the last few months. And I watch every one of them for their little medallions and for all their information. We chatted with each and every driver too when they came in to get their driver's licenses. We had that Saturday that we all worked to do all the driver's license, and anybody that comes in new too. Again, it's a requirement that our taxi drivers speak both English and Spanish if it's a chosen language of theirs, because of the fact that you never know who's going to get into your cab and who's going to take a ride with you.
So you're saying that all of our taxi drivers are bilingual and they now have a license displayed the way the New York City ones do?
Yes. And if they don't, we encourage anybody they have the exact, it's a placard that goes up in the front of their car. It has their picture on it. And if they don't have that and they're driving, I have a couple of things to say about that. But if they don't have that and they're driving, if you just report them to us, we can take care of it immediately. The other thing is we seem to have some people that think they can drive around and they're not Lyft or Uber, drive around and pick up people. And that is not allowed. We have people that have paid good money for those medallions, good money for their driver's licenses, their taxi driver's licenses. And if you ever see that, we can't be everywhere. The police can't be everywhere all the time. So if anybody out there or anybody on this board sees anything like that, then just get us, inform us, and we'll have it taken care of. Some of the windows are kind of dark.
The license plate number.
License plate, yeah, we don't ask you to go up and do anything. Just give us the license plate number and we'll take care of it.
Okay.
Well, through the
You'll try.
police.
Are there other questions, comments, thoughts? Is there anybody who thinks this is a bad idea?
No, I think it's about time that there's a little more regulation, and the medallions and the licensing seems to be a good thing so that there can be accountability when one bad apple starts acting up and it doesn't go against all of them. That way the person or senior can have the name and the car number and report it. Maybe we'll get somewhere with getting it under control. So that's great.
Thank you. All right, without further ado, we shall go on to our next item on our work session agenda, and that is a police update from Chief Sylvester. So thanks for sticking with us, Chief, and being part of these discussions. We know dogs and taxis are not the only thing that you deal with down at headquarters. So we're glad to have you here this evening for a departmental report. Take it away.
And I just want to say a fond farewell. I'm going to take
Oh,
off
thank you
now.
so much.
And
Thanks, Sue.
I know Chief is going to give, a fantastic presentation. So have a good night, everybody.
You too. Thank you.
All right. So a lot going on in first quarter of 2021. Obviously, COVID has changed the way that we do business and has held us back from doing a lot of the things that we love. But some different things that we got into in January, we started a brand new Facebook page, yet another way to communicate with us, Policia de Ausening, which is a fully Spanish language version of our Facebook page. It is independent of the regular Facebook page and posts completely different content. We've done some research. We believe it to be the only of its kind anywhere. At least in the United States. There may be countries doing 2 different languages abroad, but in the United States and in most of the English-speaking countries, we've not found another police department that does Facebook pages completely in 2 languages. So very cool. As a result of that, Detective Jess Chavez, who manages that along with a bunch of other partners in the department, he has been nominated for the International Association Chiefs of Police 40 Under 40 Award this year. Judging completed yesterday, so hopefully we'll find out that he will be an honoree. The public won't find out for a while. If he gets it, he will find out sometime this summer. So we're looking forward, and I think he's an excellent candidate, and hopefully the other judges that got his package looked favorably upon him. In March, we did compliance checks for, over the winter, we spent a lot of time with snow, a lot of snow this year, which really became our focus and becomes hard to do a lot of the other fun stuff we do. In March, we did compliance checks of retail establishments selling alcoholic beverages in the town and village. There are, I believe, 17 or 18 that were open on the night that we did this. 3 of them failed, all of them in the village, one being the BP station on North Highland Avenue, the Sunoco at 197 South Highland Avenue, and the CVS. All of them were issued appropriate appearance tickets and referred to the alcoholic beverage control, to the New York State Liquor Authority, rather, under the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law. Let's see what else we got going on here. A couple of weeks ago, we got a notice from New York State Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services that our SWAT team has been accredited. So we have it's a group of officers that are regular on patrol who augment out and get special training. They are filtered in throughout all of our squads. And in addition to their accredited status, they were granted $75,000 for equipment, which should be helpful in getting lots of protective gear for that team. Historically, they were used for things like high-risk search warrants. We haven't done one of those in a number of years. At this point, they exist for purposes of high-risk rescue and things of that sort of, in the occasion that we've had some barricaded subjects. Typically, we don't, in the last couple of years, we really haven't had to call out the team, but those officers individually being on patrol become the leaders of their squad. And when we've run into things individually, they've been able to diffuse situations with training and equipment. Was that somebody say something? Oh, Victoria, that you? In any event, being on patrol, they're able to, lend their additional training and experience and equipment, and they've diffused a number of situations that could have been much, much worse. Let's see what else. We are currently working with the International Association Chiefs of Police, the Professional Standards, Ethics, and Image Committee. I am on that, and a number of officers here are working with me on this. This week, we attended the Policy Council mid-year, where we've presented on a branding and image campaign that's going to be going out through the IACP, nationwide branding and image campaign for policing, which will include tools for measuring community sentiment with police departments that'll go beyond surveys and such that don't usually carry much value because they're sort of limited. We've got some really cool stuff that'll be coming out with that later on. Last week also presented for the Department of Justice on their international training, International Criminal Investigations Training Program. I did with chiefs from California, Colorado, and Illinois on leadership and communications. And we're also participating right now in a study through the Police Executive Research Forum together with the National Institute on Justice on crisis communications. And one last thing. If you may have seen last month, we put out a recruiting video filmed by Sergeant Donahue, written by me, filmed and edited by him on behalf of the Westchester County Association of Chiefs of Police to recruit for the upcoming police exam. The sign up for that was very, very short. We have no control over that. That's a Westchester County decision, but that test is coming up in 2 weeks. So for those that may not have had an opportunity to see that video, We created a campaign specifically targeting underrepresented segments of our population, so targeting Black or African American, women, LGBTQ, and Hispanic and Latinx members of our community to take this test. And the campaign is really focusing not so much on promoting people to take this because it's a great job, but focusing on all of the reasons that people might be reluctant to come into a business that's under quite a bit of scrutiny right now. So we won't know the results of that campaign for probably 6 months until the grades come back. Together with that, we also partnered with the Guardians, which is the Black and African American Law Enforcement Association, the Westchester Hispanic Law Enforcement Association, and New York Women in Law Enforcement to provide scholarships for a test prep program. Of the 100 scholarships, I believe 7 of them went to residents of Ossining, whether town or village. So good stuff there, helping people to get involved, to take this test, to try and change things. And the reason that so a lot of things we do, we've got a great following through all of our social media nonsense, but the reality is that we tried to put this out as a county-wide message, because the reality is that I can recruit for Ossining and I can do things in my small corner of this county, but if we don't change the way we recruit county-wide, statewide, nationwide, we don't actually change anything. So, it's nice to say that we do something well right here, but we also have to acknowledge that our small piece is not going to change. We can change things for a few people right here and right now, but if we want to make a meaningful change, we have to look a little bit more broad. So we didn't necessarily put the Ossining stamp on that project, but definitely know that behind the scenes, our staff was leading the way on much of that, and it's some stuff we're really proud of. So that's the police department first quarter 2021.
How many videos were part of that campaign, your video campaign?
We did one on a $0 budget that we filmed in 4 days.
And how long is it?
3 minutes. And it was seen 50,000 times.
Did everybody see it?
It was on our Facebook page. It was on Facebook. It was on Twitter.
No,
it was on Instagram.
Can we see it now?
I do not have that video queued up.
It was very.
If you guys give me a few minutes, I can go dig it out somewhere. But you gotta hold on here. Let me see if I can find it.
I saw it a few times. It was very well done.
I saw it too. I just thought it would be fun. Since I'm in video sharing mode this evening.
Hang on, let me see if I can find it.
Well,
see how fast I can type here. Oh, holy cow. Way to put me on the spot on this one.
You're doing good. If you don't want to, you don't
No,
have to.
I've got it. Hold on 1 second for me here. Victoria, you going to let me share?
Yes, you should be able to.
All right, give me 1 second here. Safari. No, Austin Police, this one. Here you go.
All right, thank you.
My community and the police didn't always have the best relationship. Usually when we saw the police, it was for something negative.
A lot of people I know are afraid of the police. I don't want people to think I've turned my back on them.
I can do this, but why? It was hard enough to get respect in the job I'm already in.
As a queer person, I don't want to have to hide who I am.
It hasn't always been great, but a lot has changed.
Our community needs us.
It's still a challenge, but we're making it happen.
By being authentic with ourselves, we can be honest with others.
I want to change the narrative. When people from my community see me, I want them to see themselves.
I want my family to be proud of me.
I want to work somewhere that I'll be accepted.
You'll be a hero to kids.
Someone people can identify with and someone they can relate to.
I'm ready.
To take a chance.
To make it happen.
To make a difference.
To change the world.
To be someone people can trust.
Someone who understands them.
We've done some good, but we're not there yet.
We need someone to carry the torch.
You can't do it alone, but it begins with one.
It begins with me.
And me.
And me.
It begins with one.
Very nice.
So that was the reason we were only able to do one of those. Number one, Westchester County only gave us a couple of weeks notice that this test was coming up, and then you have 30 days to sign people up. So lead time to write that, to plan it, with no one here that's a movie maker. We watch YouTube videos to find out how to do things. It's the Ossining way. We ask for no money and we make it happen. So that entire thing was filmed with an iPhone and a $50 app. That I think the cop bought out of his pocket. So, you know, it's definitely, it's a labor of love. It's something we believe in. The important thing, so this is like very personal to me. We created a framework for that, but all of the dialogue from that, the things that the cop says, the first one from Greenberg, who says, my relationship with the police wasn't always good. Those are his words. We went and said, tell me about growing up as a black man in Westchester County. What was it like? And he told us this story about what it was like growing up in I think he grew up in Greenberg. And he was talking about how, you know, if cops came, it was always just because of a complaint. It wasn't for anything positive. And when we talk to other people, they talk about being in the LGBTQ community, and they say things like, I don't know anybody else in Westchester in law enforcement that's like me, and I don't have anyone to talk to. But when I go on calls, there's people that are looking for someone that they can identify with. You know, we talked to the young man from Eastchester, and he talks about working in it's a very affluent community, and they don't have a very large Hispanic or Latinx community there, and the importance of him being there and being able to identify and seeing people in restaurants. And when he walks by and they're not really, his way, if he described it to us, was they look at him and they smile, but they're not really sure if they should smile or not, because maybe he's changed. And, you know, there's a lot of reluctance on the part of a lot of people to get into this business. And, you know, these are not folks that necessarily volunteered for this. These are people whose chiefs looked at them and said, that's the person who's here. They've got the story. They're the real authentic one to be a part of this. So we gave them a concept for the video, and then we interviewed them and said, tell me your story. And this is what they told us. So we've been trying to coax them into, I think we may host some of them on a Clubhouse chat, which is a new app. It's a whole nother thing we're going to get into, and let them tell their story in a little bit more detail. There's some national level organizations, fraternal organizations for people of color in different segments that are looking to meet them and want to talk with them. So I know that someone from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation is looking to head up a conversation with some of these cops, and we're looking to do that hopefully soon. So I'm proud of that. I'm sorry?
How many hits did you say it got? How many viewings?
Across all platforms, we counted 50,000.
That's great. And do we know how many people actually registered to take the test?
No, that's a Westchester County thing, so we won't have any knowledge. The only thing that we'll actually get, and truthfully, we may never know the answer to how well this worked out, other than not in real-time data. We may anecdotally be able to say that we hosted interviews and here's what the folks looked like when they came in. But to my knowledge, New York State and Westchester County don't collect demographic data. So I don't believe that we'll ever truly be able to know exactly what the changes from year to year. We can certainly look at who we hire and how those numbers come out. But in terms of the available candidates, typically we don't have those numbers. You know, our goal is to strive for opportunities for as many people as possible, to encourage people. The reality is, when you look at cops and people say what makes a good cop, and this is one of my favorite conversations, is not a criminal justice degree coming from a professor of criminal justice. It's not a law degree coming from a lawyer. It's everything. It's people with life experience that can identify with another human being. And when you hear the stories from these people, that's really what we're speaking to, is that I don't need this degree or that degree. I don't care if you have a degree in history or a degree in geology. I need somebody who comes here with some education, because education is super important, but pair that with some life experience that helps you to be able to relate with people and to be able to, this is a people business. It's not a data business. It's not black and white. It's 1,000 shades of gray. And that's really what we need. So, you know, we're hopeful that whoever it is that falls into that space sees this, and we'll track as best as we can afterwards, but I just don't know there's a mechanism for that right now.
Okay. Do any of my colleagues have any questions?
I just wanted to shout out the chief for making it known through all the different platforms. Excuse my voice. that the test was coming, that the test was available. It really was such a short window. And I'm betting that Ossining as a whole had a better exposure to the idea than many other communities. So I wanted to thank you, Chief.
Thank you. So the one thing we do know is the total number of people that will take the test, or the total number that'll fall within our municipality. And last time we doubled the number of people that took the test, but based on the interviews that we held, we didn't change the demographics. So we know where we had success and failure last time. And we tried to target that in particular on this one. So we know that we're good at reaching people. We just didn't necessarily reach, and you know, people have varying opinions on over targeting for one thing or another. I don't think that's really the issue here. I think that there's people of all different demographics that would really be really fantastic at this job. And I think the issue is not that number one, people do not know about this test. That is widely acknowledged across Westchester County, that unless you know a cop, it is very hard to know when the test is. And that's why we try to use our platform. You know, this idea that we have something of a community following, it's a strength, right? It's a gift that we have, that people know where we are and will hear from us. We try to use that to get a message out that's not otherwise shared. I have this job because a detective handed me an application one day and said, go be a cop. We're trying to be that for hundreds, if not thousands of other people. And it may work, it may not, but that's the goal. The goal is to make that same opportunity I had from a police officer to hand me an application. We're trying to pass that on to everybody if they're open and willing for it.
Yeah, I think you did a great job too. Just out of curiosity, separate subject, I know that we've been getting some complaints about dogs off leashes, and I want to know if you had any new feedback on that.
So we didn't, I hadn't checked in with them on what they found when they went there, but I know that we had some conversations with a neighbor around Ryder Park with some concerns about dogs off leash. You know, one of the things I was sort of alluding to before is that, you know, violations. So within the criminal procedure law, you have violations, misdemeanors, felonies. Dogs off leash being a violation, they have to be observed. And people know that. If we don't see it happen, we can't write the ticket. So sometimes these things are not necessarily something that get accomplished through tickets. They're accomplished by influence, right? Being present, letting people, the idea that we're coming back around again, just because you saw us doesn't mean you get a few hours of free time now. So we're having conversations in the park with everybody that's there to encourage people. You know, look, everybody's been locked in their house for a long time, and people are sort of spreading their wings at this point and freeing their leashes, I guess. It's something that needs to be worked on. So I don't know how many dogs, if any, we've found without a leash, but I know that the animal control officer during the day has been through Ryder Park frequently, and I know the cops that are there at night. I'm there from baseball from time to time, so I see them coming through. I'm assuring that they're there. I've had some conversations in a number of different parks with people, myself personally, you know, just to remind them that even if your dog is super well trained and you think that's okay, aside from the fact that there's a law, it's really just common courtesy that your neighbors, that some people are not as comfortable with dogs, and when a person's uncomfortable, the dog can typically sense that, and you know, it makes for uncomfortable situations. So even aside from the law, just be nice to your neighbors, and that's really the conversation we're having. People don't want to comply. We certainly have the ability to write tickets. We're trying to be community influencers first, but you know, we've always got the tickets in our back pocket. So
great. And we just got up some new keep your dog on leash sign up at Ryder, so hopefully that'll remind people as well. All right, wonderful. If there are no further questions, are there any further questions? And I say no, there are not. With that, I thank you very much, Chief. And we're going to move on to our next work session agenda item. Have a great night. So to wrap up our meeting tonight, we have a presentation from our comprehensive plan team from WXY Studios. And I think that's just Chris Rice as part of the team tonight. And also our town planner, Valerie Monastra, is here. She's played an instrumental role in this project. As the board is aware, the process of developing a new comprehensive plan has been in full swing for a couple of months, with 2 public engagement sessions and surveys under our belt and goals drafted, and lots of input from our comprehensive plan committee. So Chris is the project manager for Ossining at WXY, and he's here with us tonight to deliver a presentation with an update on our progress thus far. Thank you so much for joining us, Chris. What's your one word? Or are you going to start out and ask the last question?
You put me on the spot. Excited. Glad to be here. Thanks, everyone. Yes, my name is Chris Rice. I'm Director of Planning at WXY Studio, and here to give you an update on the progress for the comp plan. So I'm going to share my screen here, talk you through a brief presentation. All right, and you should feel free to jump in with questions as I move through this. So tonight, I really want to just talk you through the comp plan process overall and sort of where we are in the overall timeline, give you an update on the steering committee and the work that they have been up to over the last several months, update you on the community engagement and sort of what work done to date, and then share the draft goals and get any feedback that you have and talk about next steps. So to get us started, we just want to talk through the comp plan process as a whole. We like to think about it as sort of 4 larger phases. The first one being learn, where we really dive into existing conditions and start to pull out major themes. Create, that's where we really start to draft goals, objectives, and the comp plan as a whole. And then finalize, where we collect feedback and refine the comp plan based on everything we've heard from the community, and sort of end with this action agenda, sort of looking towards implementation, which is the 4th and final phase, but sort of happens once the comp plan is complete. And you'll see there's public engagement throughout each phase. We're here in sort of the create phase. We're sort of at the end of that, sort of moving into the finalize phase. And that's where we are in the process right now. As a part of the comp plan process, the town put together a steering committee. We have been meeting basically monthly since August of 2020. On the screen, I've sort of outlined the sort of major themes for each of those meetings. Back in August, we had a kickoff meeting where we really the steering committee had an opportunity to introduce themselves, the project team, WXY, PACE, we introduced ourselves. We sort of talked through what a comp plan process entails and had some initial discussion on sort of insights that they wanted to share and topics they hope to cover through the process. From there, we moved into a very extensive existing conditions analysis. We broke that into 2 parts. The first part, we looked at demographic information related to transportation, culture, community, education. And in that second phase, we looked at land use and zoning information, the environment and economy. And all of that analysis is available on the project website, which I will share at the end of this presentation. Then in October, we had a public workshop, which I'll talk about in more detail on the next slide. In January, we moved into a housing analysis where we looked at both historical housing development and also potential development opportunities based on the town's current zoning. In February, we moved into a strengths and weaknesses mapping exercise with the steering committee, which became the activity that we used for public workshop number 2. In March, we spent that meeting going through an exercise to refine the draft goals, which we'll present later on as well. We had our second public workshop on April 8th. And just last week, we had another workshop with the steering committee to start to refine and pull out objectives and strategies, which are really the recommendations in the heart of the comp plan. To summarize the community engagement, it's been robust and is ongoing. As I said, we had our first public workshop on November 19th, where we had 100 participants. There was a community survey that followed that public workshop, where we received 350 survey responses. Our community engagement partners, PACE, held thematic focus groups with environmental committees and business owners in the town, and we have shared the summary from those meetings with the steering committee. We had our second public workshop on April 8th, which brought in 70 participants. We also have to-go packets for those folks who are not able to attend that meeting. Those are available at public libraries throughout the town, and that's in progress. And there's also a community survey specifically to solicit feedback on the draft goals. That's also in progress, and we'll have a third and final public workshop in the summer in the next few months. So I'll pause there. Any questions about the steering committee meetings or the community engagement thus far?
Just to add that we only have, well, we have one library in Osnane and one in Briarcliff, but we have little free libraries. So our three little free libraries have also housed our community survey, and Victoria Caffarelli has been going around looking to see if anybody's responded to them. We've had a few. So that's another way for people to engage in the survey. And I think, are we done collecting them yet? I can't remember. This is the draft goals feedback.
I think we have it open through the end of this week. So you can either do it online on the website and email it to the project team, or like Chris shared in those various locations. I'll be doing my rounds on Friday, picking all those up. So have some time still.
Great. Excellent. Now I'd like to just share the sort of draft goals so you have a sense of where things are headed. These were developed with community input. I'm just going to read through them. Connectivity and mobility, develop an interconnected network of complete streets, such as implementing accessible sidewalks, protected bike lanes, and improved street crossings to ensure safe and equitable mobility for users of all ages and abilities, whether by car, on foot, or by bike. For open space and natural resources, we have promote access to regional connections between open spaces, protect and promote stewardship of environmental assets, such as parks, trees, streams, and wetlands, improve access to natural resources for recreation and public health benefits, and encourage the creation of new open spaces. For housing development and preservation, we have maintain existing neighborhood character, such as look, feel, and scale, and ensure new development aligns with the existing neighborhood context by balancing the expansion of housing types and affordable housing opportunities with the preservation of open space and mitigation of environmental and infrastructure impacts. Encourage a mix of uses in the business districts to stimulate the local economy. For sustainable infrastructure, we have strengthen and modernize the built environment by encouraging the use of renewable energy and green building practices, expanding broadband internet access, and promoting best practices for maintaining the community's built assets. For community and culture, we have protect historic resources, support arts and cultural institutions, as well as nonprofit and community-based organizations, and expand opportunities for recreation, education, entertainment, cultural engagement, and tourism/ecotourism for those of all ages and abilities. And lastly, economy. Support existing businesses and attract new businesses that meet local needs and the town's financial needs. Encourage an appropriate mix of uses in commercial corridors, and activate public spaces in order to support the overall commercial and social environment, including improvement of parks, inclusion of street furniture such as benches and lighting, street tree planting, and the creation of sidewalks. So these are meant to be broad and capture a lot of ideas. The next phase of the comp plan is drilling down to the objectives and strategies, which gets much more specific in terms of the ideas that they're recommending, and sort of that's where we are in the process. Any questions or comments around any of the content and the goals, feedback, ideas that you feel are missing, or you have further questions on?
Should we stop sharing for a second, just so we could see?
Yeah.
Everybody, just to see if there are any questions from town board, any feedback. Anybody have anything that they wanted to add, or any questions about the process so
I will
far?
say there's been quite an iteration on these goals. So I think, you know, to a larger extent, those goals specifically took into consideration steering committees, you know, thoughts as well as public comment. And so there's been a lot of back and forth. And so we are still, that's the reason why we're also taking public comment continuously on the draft goals, because we might also amend those again. But this is where they are at this point in time.
So with the survey that's out there, this is still a work in progress, and those results will get incorporated into what the wants and goals of the whole community are.
Yes.
So it's very important that everybody fill out their survey or not complain.
Yes.
Always a good suggestion.
We welcome lots of feedback, so yes.
Okay, so that's it for questions for that. Or are we going through anything else? Next steps?
Just one last step. Yep, one last slide on next steps. To your point, Dana and Valerie, we're going to be using the feedback from the public workshops, the community survey, all the feedback that we've collected to date to sort of build out the full list of draft draft objectives and strategies. That is our next step and where we are right now. Once we finalize that, we'll be putting together the final comp plan, sort of a full draft, history, all the other pieces of the comp plan that set the context as well. And then we'll begin to sort of prep and plan for public workshop number 3. So those are our next steps.
All right. And
great.
Valerie, did you have anything else you wanted to add, or do you want to stop sharing again? And that's the website for our plan, for our comp plan specifically. And you can also sign up, get email updates, right, Victoria? Do they email you, or can you do it right on the website? I don't remember the best way.
You can sign up on the website. You can sign up on this website, the project website. You can also sign up on our website. Or yes, certainly if you just can't figure out how to do it, we do have a project email address too, which is sustainableaustining@townofaustining.com. And I can certainly add them to the distribution list. We have about 100 people who are on that dedicated distribution list. We do also share out information with our larger distribution list, but definitely a lot of good involvement and feedback from the community, which is really great.
And lastly, I just wanted to, oh, go ahead, Dana, sorry.
I was just going to say, and the committee itself is sort of tasked with sharing back out with their own groups. You know, everybody came into the process and was appointed by this board because they represented a part of the community that felt, it felt like was important as a voice, so they're there as themselves, but they're also representing different voices of the community to bring to bear on the comp plan. So as much as they come in with their ideas, we also are hoping that people share back out to the groups that they feel that they most closely align with. That's all. Go ahead, Chris.
Great. Yeah, no, I just wanted to plug that if you're interested in taking a deeper look at any of the presentations or the summaries from the public workshops, the recordings from the public workshops, they're all available on the project website. So feel free to take a look and dig around. That's it.
And I will just say that, as much as people were very hesitant about having meetings via Zoom, and, there's no doubt that they're different. But in some ways it makes it easier. It makes it, there can be breakout groups, there can be, special tools that are used to, gain specific input from the community. And I think that, we've seen a lot of participation. I don't know that we would have gotten 100 people in a room for that first public workshop. So, again, even though it dropped off a little bit with the last one, we got those 350 survey responses and hoping to get more for the draft goals as well.
Do you feel it's a pretty wide and representative demographic of our community that has been responding?
That's a good question. I don't know that we have any kind of disaggregated data that on that, but we could certainly, I think we may have some addresses and stuff like that. I don't know, Chris, what do you have information-wise on that?
Yeah, absolutely. If you take a look at the summary from the community survey we did collect some basic demographic information. It's fairly aligned with the overall town population. I think it's skewed a little bit older. That was sort of the only sort of mismatch in terms of who we're hearing from, but overall it's generally representative.
And I think one of the things that we're doing and trying to focus on with the focus groups are identifying, groups that might be underrepresented in, like, for example, businesses, the environmental committees. We wanted to make sure we reached out to them as, that might be underrepresented in our public outreach. And so that's why we're focusing on the focus groups. And I believe PACE still has like 1 or 2 focus groups that they are planning to undertake. And some of them we've been talking about whether it's going to be focus groups or whether it's actual individual reach outs to certain businesses or certain property owners to get some additional feedback from them directly.
And we also are hoping to get some input from staff. And when we get a little bit deeper into the strategies, I think that's where we think we might get some help from, just some input from staff about, if there's things that are so completely pie in the sky, or things that are, should be thought about, anything that's not in there, anything, that might not make sense, that that we can get feedback from some of our professionals.
Right. I mean, I can tell you, I've already started broaching that topic to the planning board to get their feedback, and I'm hoping to have some sort of session with the planning board shortly to begin that kind of conversation and identify things that we might want to consider including in the comprehensive plan and strategies.
And I did also share directly out with our land use boards and recreation advisory boards and our environmental committees, these surveys. So we are, as Valerie mentioned, having some direct outreach to those groups. So yeah, hopefully it will be a really good product.
And what we should also add is board of assessment review, if we haven't done that already, which I just thought of.
Right. And if we're skewing older, have we thought about how to reach out to our younger demographic? Or there really is no way?
I mean, so we have been posting, sharing everything also out on our social media pages. But I think that we can, certainly always do better. And it's perhaps a little underrepresented too in the steering committee. So, we can certainly continue to share that out. And we did actually have some attendance at the first meeting from some high school students, which was interesting. There was a high school teacher who had shared with his class to attend to sort of learn more. And so I know I was in a group with somebody who was in high school, and it was interesting to hear from that, our high school population too, which was really exciting. So hopefully we can continue that through the process.
Yeah, I have one in my first group as well.
Yeah, I had a young person in one of my groups. It wasn't high school, but somebody who graduated from Austin High School and then came back to live here after graduating college, and not really, definitely in the younger demographic, I would say.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or any suggestions or anything that any of the other board members have, or?
Or I would recommend that the board continues to remain engaged, because ultimately at the end, this becomes your document for adoption. So we'll continue reaching out to you, keeping you fully informed of the process, and we look forward to, wrapping up this process in the next few months.
Right. Have we seen a lot of changes in the direction that the steering committee wants to go because of COVID?
Because of COVID? You mean just
different
in general
processes on where we're going to be 10 years from now than when you started and we weren't in a pandemic?
Well, I mean, we started in the pandemic, so I would say that
yeah, but we didn't realize it was going to be that long.
Right. I think in terms of overall land use, I think there's a lot of sustainability elements that were already being identified as part of this overall comprehensive plan that actually, really aligned with what we saw over COVID. For example, like pedestrian access and, creating that better pedestrian experience, outdoor dining, other modes of transportation. So those types of things have actually, risen to the surface and are being incorporated along, even, other issues like green energy and the like. I mean, again, not necessarily completely related to COVID, but for the fact of the matter that everyone has been in their homes for so long, and we're all starting to look at, how can we, all of a sudden our heat bills, our heat is on all winter long every day, so those types of things, I think people are also starting to look at how can they become a little bit greener or, more energy efficient. So all these types of elements are actually being wrapped into the overall comprehensive plan. I mean, in terms of, for example, things like where people rose questions with like density and that type of thing. I think for a larger part, this particular plan is more or less focused on sustainability, and the land uses that you currently have right now are not high density land uses. So that's not something that even needs to be looked at. But I think in terms of overall housing and just housing in general, about how like the overall development programs, a lot of builders are actually looking at, allowing or creating buildings for, like, instead of interior corridors, maybe some exterior corridors or different elements that, people were concerned with during like COVID, but not necessarily having to decrease overall density within projects. it's more of a slight change in the building form.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that I definitely think that, the conversation right at the beginning and even in the first public engagement session, definitely the topic came up a lot about the impact of the pandemic and, again, people working from home more and how that, influences everything and people's desire to get outside and appreciation of the outside. Certainly, all different related topics to
Right.
what was in evidence from the pandemic.
Right. We were also able to utilize a lot of our own data from like our assessor's office so that we were getting some more real-time information about home sales and things like that. So we didn't necessarily have to rely so much on some of the data that might not reflect what's actually going on as a result of the pandemic. So I think that was helpful to use some of our own information.
Right. And to your point, Dana, the parks, that was something else that the committee, since so many committee members actually had time to go into their backyard and really start seeing what Ryder Park has to offer, what some of these other parks or trailways have to offer. So there's been a lot of really good ideas brought to the table on that as well. So to a larger extent, I think the pandemic has actually, pushed everybody to really rediscover their own communities. And I think that has really helped with feedback that we've gotten throughout this comprehensive plan process.
Good.
Well, I just one quick example that's not actually exactly related to the comp plan, but and I think, I don't remember if you guys knew this or not, but one of the newer members that we appointed to the rec advisory board basically, was a commuter until the pandemic. And then during the pandemic, really, spent a lot more time in Austin because she was working remotely and was taking care of, helping out with her grandson, who I think lived with her, and then kind of discovered, oh, there's all these parks that she'd never known about. And, that's what got her interested in even wanting to participate in the rec advisory board. So I think we really are seeing exactly what Valerie was saying. It was just, a new discovery of what is available in our community, what are the public spaces and how can we take advantage of them, and how do we want to make sure that we can use them to their fullest and preserve them in a way that is useful to all of us going forward.
I'm very glad to hear that we're reaching out to our current businesses to see how we can help them and what might be beneficial to them going forward. So kudos.
And yes, and thank you so much to Chris and WXY and to Valerie for all of the work and all of your great guidance, and also to Tiffany and Jessica at PACE for the public engagement. And it's been quite a team, and the steering committee has been fantastic. And Jackie Shaw also serves as a liaison to the steering committee, and she's been great as well. And also she's our one unincorporated board member, so she has that perspective living in unincorporated town. All of us have the perspective of representing the unincorporated town. So I think, unless there are any other questions or comments, I think that kind of wraps up our work session for this evening. Anything else? Okay. Thank you again so much, Chris. Thank you, Valerie. And if I could have a motion to adjourn to executive session for advice of counsel and personnel.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Please join us next week for our town board legislative session on Tuesday, May 11th at 7:30 p.m. via Zoom. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers here and out there in our beautiful world. Enjoy. Cat mothers, dog mothers too. We'll take them all.